Hey everybody, welcome. Happy Friday. Yeah. Thank goodness it is Friday, right? Everyone's ready for the weekend, I am sure. Today we are doing part 4 of our Epic Mountain City stream. And then today we're going to be doing a couple things. We'll probably be continuing working on the Temple District, which we started in the last stream. We'll probably be adding maybe some minor details to here as well. And then over here is kind of our elite or merchant district. So we'll probably be adding a little bit of that. And we might want to add some more details. Right now, it doesn't have this epic feel to it. So we're going to try to do that. I noticed that there's like a water source right here. And what would be really cool is maybe having like some waterfalls that go down underneath the city to kind of represent that water is an important feature. Remember we mentioned in the world building part that what they worship are like water spirits or a water god. And so to influence that, I want water to play a big theme here. So as long as we're going to have waterfalls here, we can probably put a lake right here as well. And so I think just adding all of these elements in here would kind of just give it that extra punch. Okay, but for now, we'll go ahead and start with the Temple District. So I'll just undo all these little changes that I made. Hey, Julio, first time chatter. Hey, glad that you're here. Awesome. Okay, so now I've noticed one thing. I started on the Temple District, and I kind of noticed that these stamps line work are really thick compared to these smaller ones. That's because I've made kind of this little mistake where I kind of scaled up a stamp bigger than I should. And then you start to see a discrepancy in how big each stamp's line work is. Another first time chatter, Lord Maximus. Hey, is your first time here? So glad that you are here. Awesome. Awesome. So new faces, I'm absolutely loving it. So as I was saying, there's a big issue with the scaling. And sometimes I have this tendency, and maybe other users do as well, to sometimes scale up a stamp bigger than I should, because again, it contrasts so much. You see how small the line work here is against here, and I think that just doesn't look right. And so what that means is that I've scaled it up too big, and then I should maybe consider using some stamps that are bigger than these instead of trying to compensate by just scaling them up. So this is an issue that you're probably going to encounter probably quite a bit, so just remember to be careful there. Oh, it's late in Italy. Ooh. Well, I'm glad that you're here. Thanks for staying up late for us. We appreciate it. All right, so I'll have to pick some kind of new stamp that's going to work better. So, I mean, I can kind of look at what stamps already exist. And what I'll do is I'll check out the scale here. This one right here is at 50, and this right here is 70. So already there's a big problem here. And I could make a complex of buildings if you want your temple, or you can make your temple really big by using, let's see here. I think there's some bigger stuff. Like this one right here is really big. It might be too big. Let me see if there's a smaller one. This one right here, this is a decent size. Like I kind of like that, but I don't know. I kind of feel like I want more of a citadel to get more height, because this is already like the tallest part of the mountain probably, or at least tallest part of the city. And so it only makes sense to put the tallest building on that tallest part. That helps to refortify, and it gives a really incredible view for those people there, right? So I think what I'll do is go with a citadel approach. And what I might want to consider doing is finding a stamp that could work as a tower, and then maybe have some buttresses coming off of it, and then maybe putting some water in the center. So let's create an interesting little design. So what I'm thinking of doing is doing this. I'll just take one of these and make a bunch of them. Another first time chatter. Hey, for anathema. Awesome. More people. I love it. So let's go ahead and I'll just go with the custom object shadow. And I normally don't mess with a lot of shadows till the end generally, just because life just keeps you kind of busy. But I'll just start with this for now. And I'm going to try to make an interesting shape. And I might want to consider creating a series of tiers to make it seem taller. So check out this cool idea. So first, I'll make the temple itself. And I'm going to have it be some elements be symmetrical, and then other elements be not be symmetrical, and that will make it more interesting. I've mentioned this in a lot of other streams before, but when you're putting together your architecture, it's always nice to have, even if your main floor plan or the main building is symmetrical, throwing on some kind of asymmetrical element will help to break that up. Okay, and so because this is a water temple, I want water to be a theme, so I'll probably end up putting some water in here. I probably should have made the base first, really. I'll move this over to here, and to make a base, this is a really, really cool when you just want to make like maybe different tiers or levels on your map, because right now what you have is like everything seems kind of flat. You see how all this is all on flat level? What happens if I want to show multiple tiers going up? And that is a big problem with a lot of people who are making maps, is this sense of verticality, right? How do I create verticality? Well, I'll show you how to do that. First, I'm going to go ahead and delete, I think, these paths right here. They're just kind of getting in the way of everything, so I'll just delete these. Perfect. And then what we'll do is go to the shape tool, pick your stamp, and you're going to see these awesome things right here called a platform. Select the platform, and then pick whatever shape you want. And what we're building here is the foundation on which this building is going to be upon. And then we want to create, again, this sense of verticality. So what I'll first do is maybe pick a shape that I want. I'll pick a polygon shape. I already have an octagon here, so it probably wouldn't hurt to already do that. And I'm going to check, I'm going to take these walls. I'm going to select every single one of this style, and I'm going to lock it so I don't accidentally select it. In fact, I'm just going to select everything and then just press L and just lock everything. Now I won't accidentally select anything. Perfect. Oopsie, looks like I accidentally selected. So back to this, your platform right here. Pick the shape that you want. I picked the polygon shape here. You can pick how many sides here at the top, 8. And I'm going to create my shape. And as you can see, it has, this platform already has a built-in shadow, so you don't have to do a lot of shadowing work with it. So it already looks like it's popped up a level. The only thing that I recommend is that you go back in, grab a texture that you're using, and then just bring the brightness up just a little bit, because if you want to show some difference in height, is just make the texture of the higher level just slightly lighter. So if I go like this and I fill it in, already you get this sense of verticality, right? Because I've made that part lighter and that bottom part is a little bit darker. So you're already starting to see how to create these tiers. Now, what happens if I wanted to like show multiple levels kind of leading up to it? You could totally do that. Let's go ahead and remove these statues and we'll add them in later. Let's continue adding in the design here. So I'll go ahead and select everything except for this piece right here and just put lock. And now I have that there. Now, if you go into your line tool, pen, we're going to show a series of multiple levels kind of getting up to the back here. And so the way to do this is you have to make sure that you push it down a layer so it's below the water wall, and it has to be below the platform in the center. And so I'll take a series of these like this, and what it's going to look like is that they're maybe kind of going up. And I'll put a series of stairs as well. So let me show you this cool trick when it comes to verticality. Very neat trick. I know you guys will like it. There we go. Already it's looking kind of cool. I'm liking that. You can even have them to be centered in here like this instead of on the line, since it's already following that pattern. Copy, paste. And then each one of these is a different level going up. Okay, so the most bottom part in here is going to be this part right here. This part is the most bottom part right here. And then it goes up to here. Does that make sense? And then what I'll end up doing is having stairs going up onto the temple right here with a pool of water in the center of the temple. And that will make sure that it really sticks with that. So after you've added these platform things, you have to make it seem like, okay, how tall are these platforms? If the platforms are really short by just 1 or 2 steps, don't add any stairs. But if these platforms are meant to be 4 or 5 feet tall, then you'll have to add some stairs to it. Okay, so what you'll do is look for platforms, and then you'll see a series of stairs right here. Now, I want to have it to where there's some height to all of them. So what I'll end up doing is adding a little staircase to each one of these that leads up. And so you just walk and lead up to each one, and then we'll flip. There we go. I'm going to keep flipping these and then make sure that I have a clear path that leads up to the temple. And then we'll put some stairs right here as well. There we go. Now, if you don't like that the stairs are angled, you can, of course, just take the regular stair like this and just put it like that, going straight up. So it's up to you how you want to align the staircases, but it's up to you. But this is how you create that sense of verticality, right? It really stinks when your map is super flat. And so this really creates that verticality that we're looking for. So now I can go back in. I'm going to go ahead and unselect everything and just select this piece right here and then put that on top. I'm going to make sure to put it up a level. And I think I'm going to rotate it this way, like this. It's a little too big. It's going off a little bit. So yes, say no to flat maps. Okay. And then there is the temple part right there. And what might be cool is maybe in the center of the temple, maybe that's where we can put our water god, a statue of our water god or goddess. And maybe they're on a horse, maybe like a water horse. So that'd be kind of cool, and put that in the center. And then what I'll do is take these same little platforms right here, and I'll go ahead and put some underneath, and this is going to create the edge of where the water will be. So I'll place this and put it down beneath like this. Like this. There we go. Okay, now that that's created, now I can go in with my water texture, FG layer, and then just go in right here and then fill it in. And there you go. There's the water part of that water temple. See how nice that kind of fit out? So it kind of goes right in, and then there's that temple. We can add, I'm probably going to add a couple more elements to it. I feel like it needs more. But let's go ahead and add in the shadows to give it that sense of depth. Again, I normally do this later, but it doesn't hurt to kind of show you these things here while we're there. So add in a nice thick shadow. There we go. That pops out. And then we'll add some, maybe some circular like turrets up on top, like this on the edge, to kind of give it that kind of castle look to it. And we'll go ahead and get these shadows in. And I want to show that this is higher up. So I'm going to use an intense shadow to kind of do that. So bring the shadow. So that's higher up. And then I'll just copy and paste. And what's nice is you can place them perfectly by just lining up wherever it is that you want it to be. And then when you paste it, it'll line up wherever the cursor is. So I don't have to select it and move it. I can just put my cursor right over where it is, right over it. And then there are those towers right there. And you know what? I want to continue with the blue theme. So let's maybe add some blue tops to it. So let's put these blue tops on there. This is going to continue adding that water-like theme. Perfect. There we go. So now we have some more blue. Want to keep adding with that blue feel to it. And then some other things that we might want to consider doing is to adding that more water element to it is to maybe add some grass areas, because, you know, wherever there's water, there's life. And so it only makes sense to maybe add in some grass stuff. Now, here's what's really cool about you can make grass by just using the shape tool. You can use the hedge for the shape and then fill it with a grass texture. So go over here, go to texture, and then make sure that you pick a good grass texture, one that will work. So one that kind of has a lot of artifacts in it. So let's maybe go with this green right here. And then I'm just going to put one down real quick. And what I'll do is I'm going to select everything again and lock it so I don't accidentally select it, lock. And then I can go down and place a piece right here. And then now I can edit this. And so what I should be doing is playing with the fill texture. And then I think I'm going to bring the stamp stroke scale down. There we go. And then I think I'm going to boost the contrast on this one to really get that to pop out. And let's bring the saturation down so it's a similar green to the... And now you have some nice patch of grass that you have here. And then we can edit that. Now that we have that made, we can go into preview. And I can go in and rotate it and put some nice patches of grass in here. So let's put one right there at the center at the beginning. I think that looks nice. And let's put a couple small ones along the edge here. So I can put copy, paste, and put another one right here. And then I'll keep this same design, copy, paste, and put that along each one. So I can just copy, paste, rotate, and then put that in. There you go. And I can say right now that just adding in greenery in general is always a nice element. And it doesn't matter what kind of map you're making. You could be making a battle map, a city map, a regional map, whatever it might be. Adding in some vegetation is a great way to make things pop out. Now, I'll probably need to fix this staircase right here, but unless you want to walk right into a hedge, so I'll have to move that and move these to make sure that they're not being hindered by the hedges. This one as well should probably be centered. This one as well. There we go. And now there's clear access to get in. Hey, Don John, glad that you're here. Okay. And, you know, I think it wouldn't hurt to just add a couple more of these right here in the front, like right there. Let's take it down a layer to make sure that the shadows are being affected. Copy, paste. Another one right there. There you go. So this one is already coming together. You see it looks nice. And I think what also would be nice is adding in a series of fountains. Remember, the theme is water. And so maybe on each tier, there's a fountain, and each fountain has like a special name, maybe a virtue of the god or goddess, right? So it kind of makes sense. So each fountain is maybe an attribute of the god or goddess. And then we'll give each one of those a name, probably in the lore bit. And I want to mention this when I mention lore, is that I don't generally create all the lore for the city right away. What I end up doing is I let the landscape do the talking for me. And what I mean by that is that a lot of civilizations, at least in Earth's history, will use the environment to determine their culture. Whether it's a harsh environment, do they have a harsh and brutal culture of survival? Do they live in a beautiful, lush valley? And so they have farmers, and they're very kind and giving, and they share, and it's a more communal society. So what I do is I give myself less work by, instead of trying to come up with all the lore offhand, I'll create the city first, and then each segment will slowly come alive as the lore begins to flush out. So the city is the bones, and then from the bones, you put on the meat, which is the lore. So start with building things first, and then as those things come along, the lore will come to you. This is less work. Let the landscape, let the nature around you, let the environment tell the story, tell the lore, tell you about your gods and your world. It's super important, and that's the whole point of world building, right? You create the world first, and then from there, you can start to build up the lore. It's the same thing when you're building a world map. You don't need to have every culture and civilization mapped out in your brain and written down. You can. There's nothing wrong with that. But if it's, for some of you that might find it difficult to just come up with ideas offhand, throwing in all the landscape and all that, the world in first, allows you then to build the lore and everything off of that. So I don't want to beat it too much, but that is a great way to look at it, in my opinion. I find that that's a lot easier than mapping everything out first with all the lore. It's just a lot of extra work. Okay, so let's throw in the fountain stuff. We'll start with maybe small fountains in each one of these smaller steps, and then in the bigger step up at the top, we'll add a big fountain. A bigger one right here like this. In fact, we'll add 2 big fountains like this. I think, well, no, let's go with 1. That should be fine. 1 big fountain right there. Okay. And then what I will also do is I'm going to put a little bit of shrub also around right here, side by side, just to keep with some continuity. And so now you have some nice greenery, and the whole thing is set up there. We want to make sure that we can get the right, that the thing is there. So you go up, you go into here, step, 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 step. Okay. All right. It seems like everything is coming together there. Now, one thing I want to do is maybe there are ceremonies that take place inside of here. So let's bring the scale down. Why don't we add some steps going down into the water? Now, one thing we can do is we can use the luminosity blend mode to make it look like it's in the water. So I'll go to advanced settings. Let's see here. No, sorry, blend mode luminosity. Now remember, what luminosity does not do is affect its light and brightness. So its darkness and its lightness. So it will only pick up the color. So you'll have to bring the brightness up or down depending on the texture underneath. The other thing I recommend doing is dropping the contrast down just a little bit. Okay? And now we just copy and paste that stair. And it looks like the stairs go right down into that baptismal font in which new citizens are baptized into the faith. There we go. And if you wanted to show maybe something underwater that was kind of like the plinth, it was to put this underwater as well. And then, again, go to blend mode, luminosity, bring the contrast down, bring the brightness down, and let's make it a little bit smaller. We'll bring the brightness down. There we go. And now it's sitting on, now you can see the plinth that it's sitting on underneath, or foundation, or whatever you want to call that, okay? All right, so we've made a lot of changes, 157 changes. It's only been 20 minutes, so the temple district is getting flushed out. I'm really liking the way that it looks right now. Really came together. We might want to throw in maybe just some minor more details and then flush out the rest of the temple. And because you have all this beautiful greenery and fountains, it only makes sense that maybe there should be some benches. Now let's stick with the theme. You'll notice that everything is kind of this stone color. So let's go put some benches in here, and let's make sure we put them up a layer so that it's not affected by the shadow. So I'll put them up. There we go. And let's put a bench, one there, one right there. And we'll add a bunch of them. A bunch of benches, I think, should be nice. So put one there, one right here. I mean, if you're going to look at all these beautiful fountains, right? If you're going to have all these beautiful fountains, you should be able to enjoy them. So we'll put those there. Now, you don't obviously want to put them right here because that's where the staircase is. But it does make sense to place them maybe around the fountains, right? So let's go ahead and place that. And you only need to place 4. Just make sure they're lined up where you want them to be. And then you can just copy and paste them. So just copy, paste. Put one around here. There we go. Copy, paste. Do it again. Okay, let's keep doing that. Just keep adding more and more, and we'll deal with the shadows later. Okay, oops, I think that's the right way. There we go. Let's take a step back and look at it. There we go. Nice. Perfect. We'll add just a couple more. Oh, you know what? Since this is the entrance right here, let's put some statues leading up to it. So let's maybe take 2 statues right here. So if you're wondering, like, where exactly do you put statues and stuff like that, entrances are a great place to put statues. So I'll put 2 statues kind of guarding this entrance going in. Another great places to put statues is you can put them on top of the fountain too. Like maybe you want to just put one just right on top of the fountain like that, just so you can have a character on top. So you can do that. That's a great place to put statues. You could put a statue on top of one of these towers right here. If you wanted to add some statues up there, you could do that. So great locations for statues, all kinds of places that you can put them. Let's put in the last bit. Oh, you know what? Because this is also the entrance leading into the main temple area, let's also put some statues there as well. And for continuity, let's just put in the same ones. And these could be guardians of them. They could be heretic hunters. They could be statues of important prophets within the faith, whatever it might be, right? It's up to you to decide. All right, let's just take a step back and just see how it looks. And already, I'm absolutely in love with the way that it looks. This looks great. Those platforms really, really, really helped. They really gave it a sense of depth to it. If you wanted to show more depth, you could also just bring the brightness down of the stamps that you're using. So if I wanted to, I could select these right here. I could go in, bring the brightness down just a little bit, and then select these as well. And then bring the brightness down on these a little bit. There you go. And then that can give you that sense of height that you're looking for. And because these ones are already good, all I have to do is affect the next up top here. So just bring the brightness up a little bit. And then bring the brightness up on these just a little bit. There we go. And now you have that sense of verticality. Okay, there we go. So I think overall this is looking good. Let's just fill out the rest in here. And I'm sticking with the blue and purplish colors because I want to stick with the theme of a temple. And so I like that bluish color. So what I'll do is I'll end up maybe taking some blocks. So a great trick when you're putting your blocks together, and when we get to the residential area, I'll show you how to deal with big hunkin' blocks, because I know that there's a lot going on there with that. So what I'll usually do is I'll put in a couple medium size or big size blocks in first, and place them where I want them. So I have some big blocks in here, place those in. And then once you've placed in the big blocks, then you just fill in. You fill in the negative space. So wherever there's not a lot of them, wherever there's some space, you just fill in like this. So this is basically how you would put together a block. Start with the big blocks first. And if it's not a big block, throw down a big building like a guild or a university, a temple. Throw down the big points of interest first in the city, then throw down the big blocks that go around that, and then fill it in with the smaller on top of that. And you just keep following that order. Remember last time we created the bigger blocks first, and then we came in with the smaller shacks, these small shacks. And then after we did the shacks, we put in the small details like the crates and the barrels and the cranes. You start big first. And the reason why, again, is because this order of operation is going to cause you to do less work. Remember, if you start with small first, then you'll have a lot more room to fill in. If you start with big, it fills in more room, and then it doesn't feel like you have so much more work to do because you filled in with big, and then you move your way in. So you start big, and then you move small. Don't ever start small and then big, because that's just going to be so much more work for you. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Love yourself, okay? Love yourself, just a little bit. Okay, so we'll throw in a couple more buildings. I see I can fit in a bunch more. And then now that we filled in those, then we can go back in and grab our shacks and sheds. And then you just kind of place them where you want them, right? And if you want to be more meticulous about it, whatever house generally that has more money can afford to have more what's called outbuildings or auxiliary buildings. So that's really it. But I'll go ahead and place these auxiliary buildings in. I'm just going to place a bunch in whatever I can find negative space. And fill those shacks in. So put one there. I think there's some space there. That looks nice. Ooh, let's put one right here. Ooh, this is a nice little space right here. Looks good. Put one here. There we go. And you can see that it already starts to fill out. Let me throw in some crates and barrels. Hey, first-time chatter. Glad that you are here. Heck yeah. Okay, let's go and throw in the last little details here. So we're going to throw in some crates and barrels. And I generally like to put them right up against a house. Putting them up against shacks is a great place to put crates and boxes and stuff, is because it's boxes, right? It wants to have storage. So putting it next to your sheds makes sense, because that's where your storage would go. So make sure that you put some of those, or even put them right in front of a house. Maybe because they have packages that got delivered, or maybe it's just materials, some tools they have for their business, whatever it might be. So just throwing in these little pieces here really, really helps. Again, next to the sheds makes this better. Hey, another first-time chatter. Hey, Sniper Gecko. Yeah, loving it. Some new faces. I love to see it. Okay. And you can see already that it's starting to come together really, really nicely. Some other cool tricks you can do as well is you can also put some greenery. When you have a block that has an open space, you can create a courtyard inside of it by just filling it with a green texture, or you can just use this green that I used right here. For instance, if I want to use this, I could just turn off the stroke and then put that underneath, and then there you go. There's some green right there. What happens if I want to do the same right here? I want a little grass courtyard. Put that right in the center, right there. So now you have some grass courtyards. Pretty easy stuff, huh? So it came together. And you also want to throw in trees and other grassy elements, of course. But let's go ahead and save it, because we're already at 90 changes. We're 30 minutes in. Let's take a step back from the temple district. I think that we'll probably add more details as we go later, but you don't have to do every single detail. There's generally a final pass that you do at the very, very end when you think that you've completed everything. And then you'll go ahead and do a final pass. And the final pass is simple. You just walk along all the roads and by roads and everything, and you just make sure that everything makes sense, that there's a continuity to it. But I don't want to jump too far ahead. So let's go ahead and add one more thing. I want to mention something about paths, because right now I have the main road and you don't see other roads or little paths. You always make the main route, main carriageway or thoroughway first, and then you add in all your buildings, and then you can create your small alleyways and small secondary roads. And so how to do that is that you'll start from the main route and then just make your way through like that. That's it. So you just start your main route, go from your main route, and then go from there. So this is really the trick to doing the road part. Now you're probably wondering, am I going to use a flat white path for the road? No, probably not. I'll probably end up using a clipping mask or painting some kind of texture on there. But for now, I'm just using the line to kind of create the roads so I know where they are. And so once you start throwing in these side roads, then it starts to come together a little bit. Okay, so you start with the main routes first and then just make your way from there. And then you can kind of connect your roads as you go. So it's not complex. It's pretty easy stuff to kind of put your roads together. It's just the main route and then move your way out. We did the same thing here. Okay, and we'll probably do more stuff. We'll probably add more details and everything down here as well. Like one thing I want to do is, because this is the mining section, it kind of makes sense to make more dramatic landscape. And so I'm kind of thinking of adding some of these spikes to kind of hover over the mining area, because it's a mining area, right? Its focus is on mining. And so adding some fantasy-like element to it will make it more intriguing. So this is a mining area, and it only makes sense that there maybe be some jagged rocks here. So I'll flip, add a couple, maybe going in different directions. One right here going in this direction. Let's do this one again. Maybe going in that direction. And then maybe have some going right here against this part of the cliff. And then another one right here going against the cliff. There we go. And so now you have some more interesting landscape right here. Now, the other thing I was talking about earlier is that I wanted to have some waterfalls and a lake. So let's do that, right? So let's go ahead and add a waterfall and a lake. So I'll use my texture. It should be set to BG, I believe. And we're going to go ahead and have the lake go right about to here, because otherwise, if it's down here by the entrance, then the entrance will be in water. So I'll stop right about there, and then we'll fill this up with water. So we'll fill this up. There's going to be a nice lake right here. Could be a lake or a river. So I think that looks good. Let's take a step back. And then what I want is to have this illusion that there is water coming from here, going underneath the city, and then waterfalls coming down into this lake. And so I think that would be a good thing. And one way to show movement can be done with a little bit of architecture. And so what I'll do is create these types of piers, or a sense of, I'm going to move this way real quick. I'm going to be creating, I guess, I don't know what to call them, a pier or a concrete dock. And then that's going to give it a sense of line that's going to be moving towards, and to create this sense of direction. So I'll do that. First, I'm going to go ahead and adjust this part right here. I got to do the add mode of the mask tool. Let's see here. Make sure I have the right texture right here. I'm going to fill it in right here. I don't think it's the BG. Let me check here. Nope, it might be set to the FG. There we go. Okay. All right. Now let's go ahead and create that tier thing that I was talking about. One thing we can do is we can create it by using the shape tool. We already used this piece right here. So let's go ahead and just use this to create these kind of piers. So we'll select that. It looks like it's inside out, so I'll have to flip it. Oopsie, wrong one. Flip, there we go. And then I'll also want to choose a fill of some kind, and I'll probably just choose a texture that's going to match with that. It might have to be a little bit darker. There we go. Okay. And then from there, I'm going to play with the nodes a little bit, because when water hits against a flat object, it puts stress on it. So if we create a point, like a triangle on this, then the water will more easily travel through because there'll be less resistance. So if I go over here to nodes, then just put a node right here in the center and just go up like this, I'll have this nice pier right here. And I'll create a couple of them. Copy, paste, put another one down just like that. And then I'm going to create group, create. Oopsie, didn't mean to do that. Oopsie, let's go ahead and lock that. And oopsie. Did this shape... Uh-oh. Something happened with that shape here. Let's figure out what happened here. Oop, I'm unable to select that shape. How bizarre. Okay. Let's go to groups. Can I select it? Uh-oh. Well, that didn't work. Oopsie. Well, I'm going to save and then refresh the page. I think maybe it got stuck. That looked like it might have been an error. If this ever happens to you where something gets stuck, a stamp can't get selected, something happened, don't stress out. Just save your map real quickly and then just refresh the page. Just make sure you save first. Yes, it is in a group, and there is a known bug with groups, and I do believe the devs are aware of it and they're going to take care of it. So don't worry, just allow them a moment. It might have even already been fixed, so I'm not even sure. Well, it looks like I can't select it at all, and I don't know. Did it get flattened by chance? No, it doesn't look like it. It didn't get flattened. I'm not sure what happened right there, so let's see here. Let's take a stamp and go over it. You see, it's on there, but it got stuck somehow. Bizarre. That's awesome. I'm sure we can find that shape, but it won't let me select it. So I'm going to go through and kind of just see if I can find it in here. I mean, it's not showing up as a shape or a stamp, so I'm not sure. We'll take a look and see if I can find it. Oh, did I accidentally create it within this group? Maybe that happened. Let me unselect everything. There we go. I created it within a different group. My bad. That's funny. Not a bug. Not a bug. Just me not thinking straight. That's all. That's awesome. Okay. Okay, so now I can go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and group that. There we go. Perfect. Oopsie, it didn't group. Come on now, you can do it. There we go. Okay. Well, that was a fun little adventure. Thank you for that, guys. And it still didn't group. How bizarre. I don't know what's going on here. You can do it. Come on, buddy. You can do it. Okay. All right. There we go. Now we're getting somewhere. So I'll put one in the center first. And copy, paste, put another one right here, and then another one right here. And what's going to happen, what this is going to do is it's going to create this illusion that water is going through, rushing through. So we'll probably put some waves and stuff on there. But we also want to create the cavern part. So water goes underneath the city, and then it comes out over here. Let me check time. 40 minutes. Perfect. We got time. Great. Okay, so there's a couple ways that we can go about doing the waterfall thing. One, we can have a natural waterfall, to where it looks like it just naturally flows down from natural rock cliffs and edges and stuff. Or we can create like a waterfall coming out of a statue, a waterfall coming out of a series of statues, a waterfall coming out of a great gate. It's really up to you to decide how much work you want to put into it. I kind of think that maybe a giant statue could work, or a giant face or something like that. I don't really know. We should definitely give it a shot. If it was a more natural one, you could make like a series of spikes like this probably on it, and then have a little mouth that kind of comes out and the water comes out that way. So that would be a natural way. Now, the thing with the whole statue thing is that we don't have massive statues. Like if I type in any statue, you'll kind of notice that they're tiny, right? And that's not going to work. So a little trick that you can do, just so you know, is that because watercolor battle maps and watercolor cities use the same kind of style, it's just that they're at different scales, you can use statues from fantasy or from watercolor battle maps. You just have to be careful with the scale. And so there should be, I think there's a decent sized statue around here somewhere. I'm trying to remember where it is. It's a pretty big one. Let me just type in statue instead of scrolling through. I don't want to drive you guys crazy with that. Here's a big one right here. And you'll notice that the line work is not too terribly thick. See? So just a nice little pro tip there. You can use watercolor battle maps. If you need to have more zoomed in, larger structures or things, you can use the battle map stuff. Just remember that. It's a nice little trick there. Let's just take a look at all the various statues that we have here. And there's a bunch here. I kind of like this one right here. This is kind of interesting. This one kind of makes sense because I might be able to get water coming out of it. Maybe. Like maybe its beard or something could be water. That'd be kind of interesting, right? Like instead of a beard, flowing beard, it's water. It's water. So we could try that. Let's take a look here. I think we should desaturate it a little bit. It should be around the same stone because the mountain has grayish granite or grayish like stone. It only makes sense that the materials for the statues would probably be made of a similar material. I mean, unless you're some massive trade city, and then of course you have all types of different materials. But for the immediate surrounding area, for most of your statues, try to stick with a similar material as whatever materials or color of materials are in the area that you're working on there. Just kind of remember that. And so I think this statue might work. We might want to consider adding in maybe a little platform. Why don't I steal this one right here and kind of put it over here? That way I can kind of steal a little bit from it and put that over to here. I think that looks okay. And then I'm probably going to want to fill this up with a texture of some choice. Right here, there we go. Okay. All right. I just want to take a look and make sure. So the water flows into here and then goes onto the statue there. I just want to make sure the statue isn't, I don't know if I want it to be lined up perfectly with the those piers that I made. I don't know. Let's take a look. There it is right there at this angle. I don't know. That doesn't seem like that's going to work. I feel like I probably will have to kind of rotate it a little bit this way and have the water come in this way. And then we can even put a little path that leads to a shrine over here or something like that. So if we're going to do water, there's a couple ways that you can kind of go about doing this water thing. Is you could use the line tool and you could use a clipping mask. That's one option. So let me show you how I would go about doing that. So you could go in, make sure the clipping mask is up the right layer, make sure it's the right size. There we go. And then you can just follow along the contours of the statue, and then you can go along the water right there like that. Okay, now if that doesn't work for you, if you don't like that, because you'll have to paint very thinly in there, you can just use the texture itself. So if I go in, and what I'll end up doing is using the shape tool instead, and then just bring the brush size all the way down. And then instead of turn your stroke off, put your fill on and choose that same water texture that you had. So whatever water texture that you used right here, and then start right here. And then again, just follow the contours of the statue along the lines of here and then goes to right there. There we go. And then we'll just make a series of rivers or waterfalls that kind of go down into here. There we go. And we'll play with depth a little bit too to make it kind of look like it's more natural going down into it. It's just that you have to start somewhere, right? There we go. Okay. Instead of a flowing beard, we've got some flowing water coming out of the statue. That'll work fine. And then we'll come back to that later. I just wanted to get that there. So I think that looks fine. We'll probably even throw in some more dramatic stuff. Like I think some of these spikes, and then put them like kind of going over the statue, and that will give it an extra sense of depth as well. So I'll put one right here. Put another one right there, I think. There we go. Okay, cool. Yeah, I like that. And then I'll probably put some down here as well, just to give it a little bit more oomph to it. One right there. Put one right here. I think that looks good. Just place a couple more. Let's put one right over here somewhere, right against here. There we go. And then maybe a little small one right there. There you go. All right, so it's already kind of coming together here. All right, that's great. How much time do we got here? 46. Oh, yeah, we'll have to call it quits pretty soon here. But I hope that you guys kind of got the general idea on where we're kind of going, right? Remember what we talked about. The most important things are the sense of height, using the platforms to create depth, contrast to create depth. Remember to use the, to kind of create, when you're making larger structures, don't scale up a small stamp. Instead, construct it out of smaller stamps until you get a bigger one, okay? Because you get that serious line work problem. You really don't want to have a massive building with massive line work, because it just will totally clash and not look very good when you are trying to do that. So just kind of remember that. And then don't forget to use the shape tool to create things like your grass. Okay, use the line tool to create your roads, or at least get the outlines of the road. Use dramatic landscape to make things pop out. Notice that I added a statue here. Its beard is going to be a series of waterfalls. We'll probably put a series of mist and stuff in here. So if you have like a waterfall, we probably want to put like a cloud, I think. But I don't want that brownish color. We should go with white instead. So I'll desaturate it and bring the opacity down. When it comes to clouds, what I do is I bring the opacity way down, and then I'll stack them on top of each other. Now, where you would expect the most mist is right at the bottom of the waterfall, where the water comes in contact with the ground. So put a lot there. And let's go ahead and bring the opacity up. We'll put a couple here. Let's put a couple here as well. Just so you kind of get a general idea on where the mist goes. It's just wherever there's going to be the most amount of activity, that's where you're probably going to have the most amount of mist coming up. Okay. That looks good. Got the mist from the waterfall. If it's too much, you can always select all of them and then bring it down a little bit. But it's just the general idea. That's usually where you would put it. Okay. Let's take a step back. Some other fun things that might be cool is to maybe put like a glow to the eyes. That's another really fun thing to kind of give things a little bit more interesting feel to it. I believe it's in Watercolor City, is my mistake, a blue one. You can always add some light sources to make things kind of pop out more. So this will kind of give it that more interesting feel to it. You can do the same thing here. Now, if a statue is so tiny like this, there's no real point. But because this statue is big enough, we can kind of put a little bit of light there in the eyeballs there to make that pop out more. And in fact, I'm going to add a little bit more ambiance to the thing and add a little blue light to here as well, just to make this pop out more. Because what I want to do is have this idea that the light is reflecting off the water and then creating this reflection of light blue light bathing around it. So that should make that pop out more. Yeah, I kind of like that a lot. That looks nice. All right, so in the next stream, we're probably going to end up getting started on the residential and all the different blocks that we have to put together. And I'll tell you the method about where I start with putting blocks, what blocks should be next to each other, what districts should be next to each other, where should I put my barracks, where should I put my my guilds, all those kind of things we're going to cover in this next stream. We didn't get to the elite district, unfortunately, but that's okay. We got a lot done. We got an awesome temple district, which I'm in love with right now, and we got a little bit of our statue and our waterfalls, and then we could probably even put some ships and maybe even a part of the a part of the mountain or part of the city in the lake as well, because we have all this negative space down here, this blue negative space. And I feel like it's supposed to be an epic mountain city. And so we need to maybe add more to make it more and more epic. All right, you guys, it has been awesome. Thank you so much. We will probably continue this stream next month. Know that I have all of next week off. I need a little bit of recharge and some family time. So no streams next week. Sorry about that. I just need that time off. And then we'll come back. I know there's holidays next month, so there probably will be a limited stream schedule as well for next month. So just get used to that. But we definitely will be continuing working on this stream because so far I'm loving the way it's going. All right, I'll make sure to upload this to YouTube. Thank you so much, everyone, so much. I will see you all next time. See you, everybody. Bye.